Hey, what's up, guys? So I know it's been a while. We've had a lot of changes going on, as you can see, but we're back. We've had sicknesses, so we've been out for a while, but today we're here with Amber. Not going to attempt to say her last name. It'll be in the caption, whatever. Y'all can say it if you want. But she's going to give us a little bit of her story today, and we're just going to learn a little bit of where she's been and where she's at now and how she got there.
So, hi everybody, I'm Amber Macaluso.
There it is.
Right? Macaluso. It looks a lot more difficult than what it is. I'm a 35-year-old sober mom. Been sober for 10 months. Let's see. Yes.
I wish we had like an applause button.
Right. Applause. So, what really got me into recovery and into sobriety? I have always struggled with my mental health, struggled with depression, struggled with anxiety, and I drank because of it. Instead of actually getting help, I would just pour myself into alcohol. It was my confidence. I've never really had a relationship sober. It just gave me that confidence, and also was my self-medication for feeling depressed and things like that. It was my numbing. It was my way of coping, which never worked out.
Yeah.
Always got worse.
It never does.
It always led to high-risk decisions. It always led to drinking and driving. So I always felt, for whatever reason, I internalized not feeling good enough growing up. And just, I'm a second daughter. I was a second child. So I always compared myself to others. Always wanted to be, something that I wasn't. I people-pleased and things like that. So alcohol really became, once I became 21, became that confidence and that I'm good. Just let me be and not care.
That liquid courage.
Yeah. Y'all. So, my biggest thing with recovery is my personal struggles of not feeling good enough. I just really internalized. I had struggled with, like I said, depression, but I've had some miscarriages in the past, starting in 2020. After that miscarriage, got a second DUI. I really internalized, am I worthy? I knew I had a problem. I knew that I was drinking.
Mean? Real quick, internalized.
Internalized. So I really just brought it inside. I wouldn't really share with people how I felt about myself.
Okay.
I couldn't even look in the mirror.
Okay.
I didn't like what I saw, but when I drank, I didn't care.
Okay.
I looked in the mirror and I saw someone who wasn't good enough, who had gained a lot of weight, who couldn't do what a mother's supposed to do and have children.
Yeah.
Miscarriage after miscarriage, I really turned it into self-hate.
Yeah.
I guess that's the best word to use for it. I really hated myself. There was not one positive thing that I could find about myself. And when I drank, it made me feel better for the time being.
I seen something that you had posted. You're a content creator.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw something, and I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. Something about alcohol wasn't the problem. It was the solution.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so cool because, yes. We always say that the drugs are our problem or the alcohol is our problem or, the self-harming is our problem. But it really isn't. It's the solution.
Right.
It's our solution to whatever issues we're dealing with, mental health, anxiety, depression, yes. All of that trauma. So I thought that was a really cool, different way to look at it, yes. Which obviously it's not the solution.
Right, definitely not the solution.
It always makes everything worse because it never goes away. Mm-hmm. Like, that's our solution. Just like, you would drink and you would just not care. But then when you would sober up,
the guilt and the shame and the feelings.
It was all still there.
Oh.
It was all still there.
Yeah.
And it was only when you did the drugs or the alcohol that you didn't care about it, and it just kind of masked it for the time being.
Right.
So
it's like putting a Band-Aid over a bullet hole.
Yeah. It does a lot of good.
It doesn't work.
Yeah. So alcohol was your solution to your mental health, to your self-hatred.
Yeah, that was my self-medication. And for years, I knew I had mental health issues, but there was such a stigma for me of like, oh, you can't admit that you have mental health issues. You can't admit that you have depression.
No, because then you're crazy.
Yeah, then you're crazy. And then you're like, wait, am I crazy? Like, I mean, we're all crazy.
But then like, people actually make you feel crazy
Right.
because
Like, oh, you're judged. And
Yeah.
I don't like to be judged. That was a people pleasing part of me. The reason that I did drink, because I didn't want to be judged. And I never judged others. I've always been very open and just loving, and you are who you are. I wanted to be accepted that way too. So if you
were honest with people, then they wouldn't accept you.
No, they wouldn't. They're like, oh, no. Yeah, I'm good.
She's crazy.
She's crazy. I don't want to be a part of her. She can't
walk
be
on
around.
the other side of the sidewalk.
Right, we're going to completely avoid her because she's got issues, guys.
Yeah.
You know, we weren't open about our issues. It was this whole stigma and frown upon. So with the drinking, my self-medication was because of my mental health. And I always knew there was something internally that always told me, self-conscious or whatever that little voice is that I have in my head, was like, just admit it. Go get help.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with getting help. But I wouldn't allow myself to do it. So I tried doing it on my own. Never worked. Got a second DUI in 2020. I actually wrecked my Tahoe through a pole. Was drinking at home. I put myself to bed. I got in the bed. I know I did. And I woke up in my Tahoe in my pajamas, wrecked through a pole. Completely just sat there and waited for them to come get me. I'm like, what happened? I have no idea.
Yeah.
I was drinking at home. So even that didn't.
So were you like
up.
a blackout drinker?
I didn't usually black out. This one time, yes, we had a loss in our family, and I dove into it, and then I got put on Xanax to help me sleep.
Oh wow, yeah.
So that's what happened. I took my Xanax after I drank a heck of a lot of tequila that night at home, and I woke up.
And
run through a pole. I couldn't tell you what happened.
Yeah.
So one of the things I've learned that I love so much in recovery is that someone said to me, and it will resonate forever. If you don't remember your last drunk or high, you're not done. And I can't remember that night. I don't know what happened. So for me, it wasn't a lesson learned yet. I was like, oh, it's okay. I don't remember it.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, I don't remember what happened and how terrible that crash was because I was out of it.
Okay.
So I don't know what that was like running through the pole. I woke up and I was like, oh, what happened?
So it was almost like I'm trying to think of because that's really...
There was no lesson learned for me that night because I don't remember it.
Yeah.
I don't remember doing something wrong. I just woke up and something had happened. So it wasn't like I didn't feel guilt and shame because I wasn't in that moment. I don't remember doing it. I remember going to bed.
Yeah.
So it's like it didn't click to me. I'm like,
sure enough, you weren't done.
Right. Oh gosh, no, I was not done. And so, you know, like I said, a few miscarriages after that, I really just dove into hating myself.
Yeah.
That was what I wanted to do. I got into such a psychosis with drinking that I thought my son would be better without me. My friends and family would be better without me. Literally would write letters in my journal to my son or to my husband and just like, hey, look, I'm so sorry. You deserve better. I really thought they'd be better without me. And then I wake up.
Basically, goodbye letters.
It was goodbye letters. And I still have them in my journal. So when I ever feel like I'm not worthy enough, I go back and read them. I've shared them with my closest friend. She got dressed. Like, I want you to see how dark my mind got. I want you to see the darkness. And I'm very open about that because no one likes to talk about the darkness. No one likes to talk about how deep we actually go into, like, I don't want to be here.
See, that's what I love about this podcast because we do get into the real, the raw, the ugly, because it's not just, well, yeah, I did drugs and now I'm sober. Right. There's a lot behind it that people don't want to admit. People don't want to see. Right. People don't want to admit.
It's the pride in it, too. And that's the biggest thing that I've learned is, like, because I was so prideful, I had to humble myself. Even after getting this third DUI, I'll tell you something funny. Because my pride still got me come January. I went and saw a substance abuse doctor, and he looked at me and he said, you are an alcoholic. The entire hour I drove back home, I tried to figure out the best way I could present that without calling myself an alcoholic to my husband and to my sisters and to my friends because I wasn't done. Yeah. Mentally, I wasn't ready to say I'm an alcoholic. Yeah. I knew I needed to stop drinking, but my mind would not let me say it. So I looked at him and said, he called me borderline. He said I'm a borderline alcoholic. And they just were like, oh, okay. And so the next day I was like, he called me an alcoholic.
Yeah, just...
I had to admit it. I was like, that's not being honest. Let's be real. Yeah. I'm so real. I don't like to be... I'm not a fake person. I will tell you what I think. I'll tell you everything I've ever done. Like, I lied. Yeah. He didn't call me a borderline alcoholic. He called me an alcoholic. I'm an alcoholic. alcoholic.
But
so,
I mean, if
but there was
you
freedom
hadn't-
in that.
Exactly.
There was freedom in it. But
Yeah.
my pride would not let me
Admit
say
the
it.
extent.
Yes, it would not
Yeah.
let me say, you are the problem.
Yeah.
It is not the alcohol. You are the problem.
Now, how did you? Okay, so alcohol was your solution.
Yes.
To all of those things.
Everything.
Because we always say up here, one of my favorite things that we say is, our addiction or our drug abuse is just a side effect
Mm-hmm.
of a greater issue
Yep.
that we've yet to
Address
dig
and
into
dig
or
into.
address or uncover, because
Yes.
a lot of times, I know for me, I didn't even, when I first started coming to Celebrate Recovery,
Mm-hmm.
I came for support
Yeah.
for Gary,
Yeah.
or I mean, well, yeah, I can say Gary because he's the co-host. But once you get here, you realize you're not perfect. You have a lot of issues,
Mhm.
and I had never addressed those. Like,
Right.
I know I was telling you earlier that for me, I was one of the people who was able to just stop using drugs.
Yeah.
But I struggled for 7 years because I didn't have any of the tools in my
Yes.
toolbox. I never worked any of the steps. I never addressed any of
The root
the
problems.
cause,
Mhm.
the root problems of why I use drugs, why I
Right.
cut myself, why I like to drink.
Right.
I never addressed any of those. I had
Yeah.
absolutely no idea that that's where it came from.
Right.
So it wasn't until I started addressing those that I really started to recover.
Yes.
How did
Yes.
you do it?
That is it. That is literally the whole thing of recovery, and to me, the disease of this addiction and those chains is we have to find the root of the problem.
How did you find the root of the problem?
After the substance abuse counselor, he
Okay,
told me
so
I was an
substance abuse
alcoholic.
counseling.
Yeah, I went to counseling. As soon as I accepted what he said of being an alcoholic, it's like I needed that medical professional to tell me. I knew it. Immediately, I called and made an appointment with a psychiatrist. I was like, okay, my mental health is not good.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where I'm going to start.
Yeah.
My starting point was seeing a psychiatrist and getting on the right medications for my anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
I also I struggle with manic depression as well. I will not sleep for days.
Yeah.
Days. And I noticed that back when I was 16. It started at a very young age.
Yeah.
Which
That'll put you into a.
Oh yes,
like,
girl! I
not
will paint a
sleeping for
whole
days.
house.
Yeah.
I will paint my whole house when I have those moments. It's crazy. So I really sat after he told me that. It really just resonated. I was like, okay, I've got my third DUI here. I don't know what I'm about to be facing. I'm gonna go get help.
Something's got to change.
Something's got to change.
Yeah.
I found these Zoom meetings, AA meetings, and I just started diving into them.
Okay.
I just listened to them probably like 3 or 4 times a day. No matter where I was at, just pop it in my ear. And so listening to that, and also that was the first step of doing it. It's like scheduling to get my mental health in order. I want to know what's wrong with me. Why can I not control my feelings and my emotions?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's why I drank.
Yeah.
So
From feeling out of control. And
yes.
so drinking made you actually feel like you were in control of
Yes.
something. Even though you were out of
Even though
control.
I was way out of control.
When you were drinking. But
You couldn't tell me I wasn't in control.
but you drinking, that was
my
was
thing that
in
I
your
could control.
control.
That
Yeah.
was how much I drank and what I did. That was my control, and it made me feel better. For whatever reason, it made me feel better.
temporarily.
Right, temporarily until I got way too far.
Yeah.
So my first step of getting into recovery was that substance abuse counselor. Then I was like, okay, I identified what I was struggling with. What am I really struggling with?
Mm-hmm.
My mental health, my emotions, internally not feeling good enough, not the self-hatred. Okay, well, you know what? I couldn't fix it on my own. I tried the year before. I only got
Mhm.
4 months of sobriety, then I ended up getting a DUI again. So figuring out who is Amber.
That's really important too, knowing that we cannot do it by ourselves.
Right, because I tried.
Yeah.
I
And
tried.
we'll fail every time.
Yep.
Like, even during that time that I was sober from meth, I struggled on other things.
Mhm.
Like, I would drink every so often, or like somebody would present something else to me. So like, I have that 11 years worth of sobriety under my belt from meth, but not
the
from
other
everything,
things.
not from other things. And because I was just covering it up and I was doing it by myself.
Right.
So I think that's really important for everybody out there watching to know that you have to have the support groups, the accountability partners,
right,
to keep you in line, to let you know, hey, you're making a bad decision, you know.
Right. It's that fellowship. That's what I've learned over the last 10 months is that it's our higher power, whoever you identify that as. For me, it's God. I have my spiritual journey has opened more in this fellowship of recovering addicts, in AA meetings, in recovery meetings, because now I actually I'm with people that have the same struggle, and it might be a different substance. It might be we all have different paths of life, but we have the same problem.
There's a connection.
There's still the connection there. And I saw this thing on, I think it was on Instagram, and it said, AA meetings and recovery meetings don't keep you sober. And then it said, well, I don't need shoes to walk, but it sure helps.
Yeah.
You know, like that accountability.
I like that, though.
Yeah, it's like, well, we don't have to have shoes on our feet to protect our feet to walk, but it definitely helps.
Yeah.
And I can feel when I miss those meetings.
Oh,
so,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was just like a huge, I remember like calling my friend, and I'm like, you got to hear these meetings. It was like this light bulb, and I'm getting chills just thinking about it. Ugh.
Well, we have to keep filling our cup.
Yes, you have to fill the cup.
Yeah, I mean, we can't go on. I know, like, whenever we miss Sundays, I feel so empty and so drained all through the weekend. I don't feel like I have anything to get me through.
Right.
So, like, going to those meetings, getting that support, getting that help, getting that fellowship.
Yes.
It keeps you going and it helps motivate you. But and for me, it really, like, I know if I was to mess up, I would let so many people down.
Right.
And
that accountability
would break
there.
my heart so bad.
Right.
I would probably never show my face again because it would just hurt my feelings so bad because there's so many people who you meet in these meetings and at these groups that really, they're not even, I don't even consider them support groups anymore or accountability partners. They're family. They really become family.
Right.
And that love that you gain from being sober and going to these meetings and stuff, I mean, it's nothing,
unreal. You can't even put words.
It's really like nothing.
It's just an unreal experience. It's literally a spiritual. It's crazy. It is. It's like I say, I'm terrible with words, and it's really hard for me to ever explain. It's just like you just got to come. My mom came with me to a meeting, and I was so excited. I was like, because I never knew. I knew of AA, but like I said again, like there's a stigma on all this stuff. It's like, oh my God, you go to AA, you really are, you're a crappy person and you really have an issue. And I'm like, I go to AA. I'm like telling everybody, I love it. And so I was like, Mom, come with me. Just come see what it's about. My best friend came with me. And it's just, even if you don't have a struggle, I am so big on the moral inventory and what we're doing internally for ourselves. I think everybody should work the 12 steps.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You know, it's like I'm finishing up on my 12th now, and my sponsor's been amazing, but it took me 6 months into sobriety before I even started to do it because I'm like, no, I'm good. I think I can do this. I was prideful still. I had to humble myself again.
So what would you tell somebody who's out there who's struggling right now? Where should they start?
I would start with trying to really turning inward and figuring out, why do I medicate? Why am I self-medicating? Why do I want to numb whatever that feeling? Identify the feeling that you're trying to run away from, whatever that is. Identify.
Okay. I'm trying to think.
Which is sometimes hard to do, which is
That's
why
what I was going to say. A lot of people
I went
don't
and sought
even
help
know.
because I couldn't tell you what my problem was. I could tell you all the things I've been through, divorce, miscarriages, things in high school that made me feel like I wasn't good enough, or like the fact that my sister's a cancer survivor and she was always the prettiest sister. All these, I could tell you a million different reasons of things that I have felt through my life, but it was me. Mm-hmm. What was it about me that I was trying to escape, and why was I making myself feel that way? So I knew if I was able to go and just 100% own how I felt, which is the hardest thing to do. Like I said, that pride will keep you from saying, I have a problem.
Yeah. Which is the first step.
The
You
first
have
step.
to say, okay, I've got a problem now. What am I going to do about it?
Right.
Like we were saying, one of your first steps is you have to figure out, what are you covering up? What are you hiding?
Yes.
You do that by getting into these support groups,
Yep.
getting into these
Yep.
recovery meetings. What is your plan going forward?
Going forward, so I will continue doing my meetings. I go to recovery meetings on Tuesdays and Fridays.
Mhm.
I absolutely love them. And I'm also in a DUI program through Troup County, which is giving me the tools.
Yep.
It is literally giving me the tools of sit, feel, think, and then do.
Okay.
And 100% honesty, in this 10 months of sobriety, there has been life that has happened that would be a reason of why I would drink.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Things that I have felt in sobriety that I can't run from, it would literally make me drink. So I'm like, I have these tools now that I will continue to use. And it has helped me truly just be honest, to humble myself, to love myself.
Yeah.
So for myself, I think just being in that community, being in the fellowship, and now that I've met you guys, like, it's amazing, because I have never been to the Celebrate Recovery yet, right? I've heard so many things about it, and I've been following y'all for the past 10 months on social media.
Yeah.
So, when I was reached out to, I was like, oh my gosh, I've been following them. I've been watching these podcasts. So it's, for me, I think the best way for me to continue my sobriety is just to be raw, to be honest, to keep myself plugged in.
Mm-hmm.
I've really been open-minded and open-hearted to other people's stories, because I'm only 10 months sober, right?
Yeah.
Other people that have done this for years, they'll be like, man, I thought I had it at 10 years in. And I went and I was like, okay, I'm really internalizing that. Like, don't ever think you've got it.
Yeah, no.
As soon as you start feeling like, hey, I got this,
I'm good.
you don't got it.
Yeah, no.
So I'm really just trying to be teachable and to be coachable. So going to AA meetings, staying in recovery, and for myself, what has come out of being in the program is a passion.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of my struggles with my identity and who is Amber's, I never knew what I was passionate about.
Yeah.
I love
You didn't even know who you were.
I didn't know who I was.
Well, and then a lot of times once we get sober, that is our identity,
Mm-hmm.
our addiction, our alcoholism, our whatever it is.
I was
all
the
of our
drinker. I was the
trauma.
fun. And that's who I was.
So when we take that away, it's
Who are we?
like you're so lost and you're so
Yeah.
empty, and you're like, okay, now what?
Right. Right.
Like you said, who am I?
Right.
But it's amazing though, because it's almost like you start with like this blank slate,
It's completely
and
blank.
you can paint it as
Yes.
to who you are. So,
Right. Finding out who Amber was has been my number one thing.
and it's wonderful. Isn't
It's
it?
crazy.
It's beautiful.
It's literally the most beautiful thing ever. And it's where I couldn't say no in the past. I can say no.
Yep.
I struggled in the beginning of sobriety because, like I said, we always paint this, look how amazing we feel, and look at the weight that I've lost, and all these things that are happening in my sobriety and recovery.
Mm-hmm.
But it ain't always rainbows and butterflies.
No, it's still a struggle. Like
when you're sitting by yourself
Mm-hmm.
and something happens in your mind and you start thinking like, oh man, I don't want to feel this, and you just sitting in it without numbing it is the hardest thing I've had to personally face.
It's really, I mean, it's coping with life.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Things
It
that
is.
we've never done before,
Right.
because we were so high or
Right.
so drunk, or, if I had a bill that was past due.
Right.
So what? I'll go drink or I'll get high. I don't
I'll pay
care.
it next week.
Dealing with dealing with life
Mm-hmm.
on a sober level
Oh, it's
is
difficult.
enough to make you want
It is
to go back.
Oh, 100%.
That's why all of these things are so important. The therapy, the counseling,
Yeah.
the support groups, the meetings, all of those. They give you the tools to
Yes.
deal with life on life's terms.
Yes, and it also opens up a safe zone. It opens up a safe area to communicate, because you know that we are struggling with the same things.
Mm-hmm.
It might not be 100% the same, but it is. We all struggle with the same disease.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like the more people I have met, if I feel a certain type of way, it might not be my sponsor, it might not be one of my closest friends, but say if I start feeling a certain type of way and there was something that you said to me,
Mm-hmm.
now that we have intertwined ourselves and we're on the same path together, I might reach out to you and say, hey, Amanda, I'm really struggling with this today.
Yeah.
The community.
Yeah.
The community is what is so important for myself and my recovery to keep me, like you said, accountable.
Yeah.
If I go and I make the wrong decision and I go mess up, which I do not judge those that have relapsed.
Yeah, no.
It's like, okay, what are we going to do now? Relapse is part of recovery. And everyone relapses. I haven't relapsed in the 10 months that I really was intentional with my recovery, but I did last year.
Yeah.
I tried to go sober, so I have relapsed.
I think I don't really want to say that everybody relapses, because there are people out there who have never.
That have never.
But we relapse in some kind of way.
Yes.
Maybe not on the same drug we used, or maybe not. I mean, even for me, like, we'll relapse in our mind.
Yes.
You know, I mean.
Yes. 100%.
That's a big thing. So, but that's why what you're doing right now is so important, because there may be something, our Sunday school leader was talking about it this morning, and I loved it. Your story may touch somebody that my story can't.
Right.
You
have no idea.
No. So if you don't keep going and you don't keep pushing, you'll never know. There may be somebody out there right now who needs to hear your story that you may never even reach if you give up and you go back.
Right. And that's one thing I used to stop myself on. That, oh, you should do this and tell your story. Oh, no, I can't. I'm not good enough to do that. Like, I'm not going to put myself out on TikTok like that.
I literally ran away from Celebrate Recovery because I was asked to give my testimony.
Right?
And I was like,
who am I to do that? I'm not good enough to do that. No one needs to hear my story. And so opening myself up, like you said, the content creating, opening myself up to TikTok. I did a live for the first time this week. My son was like, come on, Mom, do it. Come on, Mom. Okay. And I was like, okay, well, just sitting there. And there was maybe 10 people in the room. Mm-hmm. Someone had just got out of the hospital for being an alcoholic. She's 4 days sober. Lives in...
I just got goosebumps.
Right,
like, I literally just got goosebumps.
And I'm like, she told me what state she lives in. It's nowhere close to here.
Yeah.
I've met someone in New York who has reached out and messaged me. Her drinking story is very similar to mine, of self-medicating because of a spouse or a dating partner was into their drugs, and the only way that they could numb it to make themselves better was to drink. And that's where I started.
And that really just kind of put the nail in the coffin
I'm
for
like,
you
okay, God.
Yeah, I
even if I don't want to, TikTok, you know what?
To.
If TikTok is my platform, that's what I'm going to do.
I mean, and if that's what your calling is, and, if that's what you feel and like he's leading you to do, then...
And that's what's going to keep me sober for myself.
And you have to put your all into it. Yeah. You have to go as hard for your recovery as
you go for the drinking and the drugging. 100%. It's like, what made me giggle one time was when I first got into recovery, and it was like, with meetings, it's self-supported, so they don't expect you. It's like an offering in church, You'll go pay $50 for that bottle, for that drug, but you won't give $5 to your meeting. Yeah. It's like, oh, I don't have that. I can't give that. Or I can't give that to the church. But guess what? When you leave the church at 12:30, once the county lets you buy alcohol, where am I going to buy it? I'm going right to the store and getting my bottle of wine or getting my bottle of whatever I want to drink. Yeah. So it perspective changed for me. Mm-hmm.
Perspective and priorities. Like, I mean, what are you really seeking? Do you really care about your meetings in your church and getting
Are you
sober?
Doing it because of you're being forced to? That was a big question in the program.
That's a huge thing.
Because I am in a forced accountability program. I was facing 6 months of jail time.
But a lot of times it is a blessing in disguise. And a lot of times we see it here all the time. And the people who run it, they'll tell you. I can tell if we can tell if we're gonna see you again in a few months or in a year.
Is it not crazy how you can start to see it?
Yes. You can. I mean, if they're only here or you're only going and you're so negative about it, and I'm being forced to do this, and I'm being forced, and they're doing this, and I'm having to do this. Mm-hmm. You're going to be right back as soon as you graduate. Yes. If you graduate.
Yes. If you graduate. That was the biggest thing for me.
You have to change your mindset, and you have to be grateful for the opportunities that you're being given.
This.
Exactly.
And that's how I came into the recovery program with the court, because I was literally facing 6 months of jail. I was like, I don't need jail time. I need help. Yeah. I've identified the root of my problem. I've identified why I drink. now I want to keep going. If you're going to go lock me up for 6 months, I'm not going to stay sober.
No.
I'm going to get so upset. There's no help for me to be able to do that. Yeah, there are consequences, and if that's what I had to do, I was going to do whatever I had to do.
But, it could have been the same way, though, even being locked up for 6 months or being in, some kind of accountability court for 6 months. It wouldn't have made a difference if your mindset had not been, okay, I need help. I want help. I've got to make a change.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's really, you choose, even though, like, I say it all the time, and, like, that's something me and my co-partner have a different view on or different opinions on. He says he didn't choose, to get sober because he was forced to stay sober.
Right.
No, but you still chose.
You still chose.
Because
you don't have to stay sober.
No, you could have chose to be negative and hateful and just hated all of it.
Right.
And as soon as you graduated, you would have been right back where you started.
Back,
so you do choose it. So if you're in a drug court program or whatever kind of court program, and you're thankful for it and you're grateful for it and you are choosing it. You are choosing sobriety. You're not being forced. You're choosing it.
Right. And that's kind of my view on it. Like, there's a lot of people, and there's so many amazing people that I have met through this program. And what makes me so excited is I get so excited to go to my group therapy. I'm just like, I get to go see my people, and I'm learning so much. And so, oh goodness, I'm not rabbit trailing again. My brain just went, woo.
Would you ever have thought that you would have been excited to go to
a
recovery group?
No. I would never thought I'd been like, oh my God, you can't believe how amazing this meeting was. I can't wait to see this and share this with you. It's been so amazing. And so I think that's my biggest thing is like okay, so what keeps me sober? What am I going to do to keep myself in recovery and to continue the path?
Are we going back to the question that I asked?
Right, yes, because I'm like, it's like, I get to be here.
Yeah.
I get to be in this accountability program. I couldn't do it on my own. That humble and surrender, the chains are gone, and I get to do this because if not, I'd be in jail.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited, but it's like that is what kept me from being in jail, but it's also I get to do it. I have to pay for it. It's not free. It's expensive.
No, it is.
And I think that's what kind of made me feel more passionate about recovery is that I've seen so many people that, like, when they're in this program, they'll miss being a star or they'll miss something by a $50 thing. So what all of a sudden my passion came from was, I'm going to sell some shirts. And I'm going to give back to this program. For those people that can't pay on Friday for their group therapy this week, they're missing their store by $40-$50. I'm going to give it back.
I love that.
That's what my passion has become.
Yeah.
So it's when we recover loudly, you keep others from dying silently. Because I almost died in silence for my mental health.
Yeah.
And it's like, everybody knew I was a drinker. That wasn't the hidden part. The hidden part was my internal struggle.
Yeah.
How I saw myself. How I felt.
I love who you are.
Thank you.
I'm
loving who I am now, too. This whole new sober Amber's a whole new Amber.
You should.
Yeah, my biggest thing is giving back. I want to give back.
Yeah.
And someone said, well, aren't you paying for it? I'm like, yeah, but that's not giving back. No, I want to give back to people.
But that helps us heal in a whole other way when we're in recovery. Like, that's part of the reason I do this podcast. Because it's giving back.
Right.
And it's my way of giving back.
Right.
And I learn something I love you. Like, I wish I'd be here. Like, I love her so much. I hope I would love to have you back on here again.
Absolutely.
And talk, just talk about something else. Like, this has been wonderful. We love you guys. Tune in next week. Don't know what the topic's going to be yet, but maybe it'll be as interesting as this one. We love you guys. We'll see y'all later.